Knightline is brought to you by the Dever Team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 210 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Joining me as always,
Trace Trylko. Hello, everyone. UCF football loses, what did I write here? Tulsa. Oh, my goodness. We're talking about it with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel. Men's basketball gets an opening game win, so we're checking in with former men's basketball player Ben Stout. And in reaction to this year's football season, should you eat too much or drink too much? That and Ask Knightline. But first,
all right, those of us in Florida should know what those tones mean. Something's going on. This time it was a freaking nuclear meltdown. UCF melts down. Everything just seems to fall apart in Tulsa. The Golden Hurricane, that's the other thing, named Hurricane, hold the Knights to just 3 points in the second half.
oh, it's
This
horrible.
is freaking ridiculous.
It's horrible. Are we really talking about this?
Oh, man.
This is one of the worst losses in UCF football
Well,
history.
here's the deal. And I've reminded people all week about this. When was the last time we won in Tulsa? In
Never.
anything?
Nothing.
In anything?
Nothing.
Never. In
Never.
basketball or football. Ever.
Never.
Yeah. So there's some vortex of negative energy down there.
Bad juju.
Bad juju.
Route 66 there.
Well,
Don't get
Route
your
66
kicks there.
is great, but there's definitely bad juju there, and I personally hope that we never go back there again. That's impossible, but whatever.
You know, one of the things that frustrated fans so much about George O'Leary is you'd have a great season like the Fiesta Bowl and you'd follow it up with a 9-3. It is so difficult for me to make sense of this season. Struggling on the road with Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, but then you hand Temple a pretty decisive loss, right? And now back on the road, you just can't lose to Tulsa on a Friday night.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Well, I've been saying for quite a while, I don't understand what's going on the road. Something is different going on the road, except for that one Temple game. I thought that maybe we were over it. I thought maybe whatever the problem was, they had fixed, and we were going to go down to Temple or to Tulsa and fix it. We would have it fixed. It looked fairly decent in the first half. We were at least up at halftime, and then the floor fell out. Everything went wrong that could go wrong. I thought Dylan Gabriel was dead at one point. I was having flashbacks of Mackenzie Milton being hurt when his helmet flew off and he looked laid motionless on the ground. I mean, that was horrible. There was nothing about this game that turned out to be a good thing. Nothing. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. The players melted down with dumb penalties. The coach melted down with not being able to do anything with the offense. The offense would go 3 and out. The offense would go 3 and out, and then the defense would come back on the field. They were constantly out there. What do you expect the defense to do when they're out there the entire freaking game?
And with turnovers, you've got a short field for Tulsa.
And then I thought maybe, oh, good, it's a kickoff. We won't muff the kickoff. Well, Adrian Killens muffs a kickoff, and they score off of that. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, and you haven't pointed out two other statistics. That Tulsa is one of the worst rushing defenses in the country, which was a recipe for UCF to run early, run often, run through, run over, run around Tulsa. And it looked like some of that would happen early, and then that stopped happening. Tulsa had 7 sacks on defense through the first 9 games. It's not even averaging 1 a game. and they looked like all pros with 5, I believe it was. I mean,
Tulsa had 10 points off of turnovers. We had 15 penalties for 120 yards. 120 yards in penalties is going all the way up the field one time and working your way back to the 20-yard line.
Well, how about this? 3 points in the second half.
That's crazy.
3.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm having flashbacks to 2015 where we would meet weekly to try and be positive and find things because, of course, we never thought it would be 0-12. We thought every week they would come and win.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find individual. I mean, Dylan didn't have statistically a bad game, and you knocked him a bit last week. But Trey Nixon really dove for a ball, and you saw effort.
I was so excited when I saw that. I was like, "Oh, he dove for a ball!"
You saw effort, and you just
maybe
can't.
He heard me, so he gave extra. Probably.
I mean, and here's the other thing: we knock out their quarterback.
And their backup comes in and plays like Peyton Manning. You got to be kidding me.
It's inconsistent at best now this season. And, a lot of people are saying it's a lost season. I'll tell you what, Tulsa is not the game. I mean, I said a couple weeks ago, going in at Temple, Tulsa, Tulane, I wanted to see how they'd play on the road after Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. Temple restored my faith in them. I thought they would get a decisive victory. I still thought Tulane would be a challenge. Boy, this is 2 games going into a bye where they have just not played well. Yeah. And that is not the taste in your mouth, really, is it, that you want? But then they came back out of that Cincinnati loss and won decisively. But now you got to go back on the road. And these next 2 are not slam dunks. Kyle's on Friday. They seem lifeless.
There better be nobody partying in New Orleans. There better be nobody partying in the bars.
Except the fans.
Yeah, except the fans. And I don't, they're going to be sitting at the bar drinking themselves into a stupor, I believe.
And this is now, I mean, I don't think we be phony on here, right? I don't think we're phony. I think we speak, right? Good, bad. You may agree. You may disagree with one of us, both of us. This is still 3 losses by a total of 7 points.
It is.
Okay? And it's 4 losses going back to the Fiesta
Bowl. Did you get
Bowl.
in trouble on Twitter for saying that?
But I did call out, and I'd say, you're going to boo me now.
Well, they come after everybody on Twitter because now I'm a target for a couple people.
Can I go off on that point real quick? I'm an alum, okay?
Yeah.
I was sports editor of Central Florida Future, covered the team. I get to cover the team for Knightline. I have gone to 20-some-odd years of road games.
Right.
I don't need anybody questioning my fandom and telling me I shouldn't be a UCF fan anymore for not questioning Heupel or not wanting him fired. And I called out one guy who I like, a guy by the name of Mike, follows us, and I follow him on Twitter. He's always spinning good stats.
Right.
And I know it's the heat of the moment, so I don't want to judge anybody because I was up till the wee hours.
Me too.
And, you just can't go to sleep after a game like that. I'm talking to people on Twitter, and I watch the game. I don't need anybody, Mike, or you, or anybody else telling me I should no longer be a UCF fan because I said, you know what? I still love UCF. I still love these players. I still love everybody on Twitter. Some of you are aggravating as all get out, but I love all of you. And it's time to buck up, and we got to support. I see Jordan Johnson on Twitter on Sunday afternoon with a post that I responded to quickly, and I said, Night Nation supports you. And Jordan Johnson, who's been a standout member of this team, and this is his senior year, writes, haven't left my room all day. Come on now. I mean, it's football. Let's get a grip here. Things haven't gone exactly the way we want, and I'm not trying to spin this loss.
No.
But I'm also saying it's 3 losses by 7 points, and we need to support these players and come back in 2 weeks and win on the road at Tulane, and you still have 10 wins in sight here.
Right. I want to say, in addition to what you were saying about you being an alum and all that stuff, I started this entire thing. I started this Knightline thing. If I wasn't a fan, I wouldn't have sat through that 0-15 season and all the rest of the seasons that I've sat through. And we wouldn't do this. I wouldn't spend my money on this. And I'm a diehard freaking Knights fan now.
So we need to stop the circular firing squad. We don't need to be tearing at each other.
Yes.
And I think it's something we talk about with Kyle, and I think it gets lost. We see it every day. We get new followers every day on our social media.
Every day.
And they are recruits.
A lot of them.
And they want to check the fan base, the pulse of the fan base. That doesn't mean all of you that you should be happy about Friday. Nobody is.
Right.
And you can be critical about play calling. We'll get into some of this. There were some head-scratching moments again, and you can talk about that. But let's not question people's fandom. Let's not call for a coach who's 19-4 to be fired. I mean, you sound ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, Arkansas fires Chad Morris, who came over from the American. 22 games in. Willie Taggart's run in 21 games. Boy, there are no more 5-year plans in anything. They're not even 3-year plans. You don't even get 2 years.
You mentioned Willie Taggart. Think about it. We could have him as our coach.
Well,
you don't like Heupel? Willie Taggart's available. I don't know who else is available, but Willie Taggart is. So think about that, folks, before you say that. My opinion on Heupel has changed a little bit.
We're on that breaking news.
I am going to step back a little bit on this. I've defended him because I like him. I don't like a lot of people. If you know me personally, seriously, Trace, you know. If
I don't
you
even
know
think you
me,
like me most days.
Most of the time I do. I don't like very many. You're sitting in my house in the 1148 studios right now.
Shh,
so
don't tell people it's your house. They think it's this big palatial studio. Well, of course, when I take pictures in here and you see yarn hanging from
yeah, true. But whatever. It still is the 1148 studios. Yes, the 1148 studios are in my house. Anyway, I don't like a lot of people. So when I like somebody, I will defend them. I'm that kind of a person. I will defend them to the death. I like Heupel a lot. I don't know him very personally. I have talked to him a few times. I genuinely like the guy. I genuinely did not like George O'Leary, and obviously that has been, well documented. But I don't like a lot of people, but like I said, so I have been defending him to the death. And I just, honestly, I didn't want to hear all of this bad talk. I didn't want to hear it. It's that simple. I didn't think that it's necessary to talk about a coach like that. And yes, I guess I was the guy that was screaming, fire Donnie Jones, fire Donnie Jones. Donnie Jones needed to be fired, though, for a long time, and they finally did it. Anyway, but I'm upset with Heupel at this point. I'm upset with Heupel about the discipline of the team, though. The penalties, which we've talked about a million times. And the penalties, people have called me out, oh, the penalties aren't important. They're not important to Andrew. They are, and I've said this over and over every time we've talked about penalty. Are they losing games because of penalties? Have I asked you that a million times or not?
Yes, but they have.
They haven't until this game.
Well, no, I don't think that's fair.
They really haven't.
No, I don't think that's fair. They gave up 45 yards in back-to-back-to-back penalties at Pittsburgh.
But that didn't lose us the game. The turnovers lost us that game.
You can't let them march down the field on penalties.
This game, in particularly, with 120 yards and 10 points.
Certainly.
Off of turnovers, I guess.
Certainly this game. But go back to the Fiesta Bowl. They're up and ready to break open that game, and then the spike football.
I'm talking about this year. I'm talking about this year. Anyway.
Well, that's under Heupel.
It is under Heupel, and that's whatever. I'm
giving you examples.
I'm talking about this year, though, Trace.
I'm giving you examples.
I'm talking about this year. It did not bother me until now, the penalties. It bothered you. It bothers other people. It just didn't bother me. Now it bothers me.
Don't you think it's a symptom of a
and they're stupid penalties.
Problem?
It is absolutely. Yeah. Now I do for sure. I mean, my eyes have been opened on the whole situation.
Heupel spoke to it post game, saying that they'd shown some improvement.
I got it.
It was 5.
I got that clip.
Right. It was 5 last week.
Right.
With Houston, I asked him in the post game. After the Houston game, were you happy with the progress on penalties? Well, no, pre-snap, post-snap penalties. We still got work to do.
Right.
We're 10 games in. When is the point you bring up with Kyle? Well, how many radical changes are you going to see in Game 11 and Game 12?
Right.
I mean, they kind of are what they are.
Well, I'm just saying my tone is changing a little bit because of that. I'm not going to say he should be fired, obviously, because that's just asinine. But I will say something needs to be done about the discipline of the team because dumb penalties are happening. Even as far as I'm concerned, even muffing punts and kickoffs is a discipline issue, personally. We also had a situation, which I'll explain here in a little while, about the players yelling at each other on the field that we saw on national television. That's not a good thing to see on national television, even though now that I have an explanation of that from a source, that is, it's just not a good, what do they call it? It's not a good, whatever.
Representation?
Well, yeah, that's not the word I was looking for. I couldn't think of the word, but whatever. I'm in a passionate moment and I can't think of words.
It's not a good look on national TV.
It's not a good look.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of things that are going on here. There's things that we don't know about that are going on. There's things that, whatever, people tell us and all that stuff. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. It could be a lot worse. It could be a lot better than we think behind closed doors with that staff and the players. With the players themselves, you never know. They're not going to come out in a press conference and tell us, oh, yeah, the players hate each other. They're arguing all the time, stuff like that. The players hate us. They're not going to come out and say that, ever.
Yeah,
so,
no, that's not going to happen.
There's all kinds of things, though, that could be happening here. So let's, real quick, I want to get into this Nate Evans thing because I just brought it up. So Nate Evans and Neville Clark were yelling at the player that was down on the ground. So what happened there, through a source very, very close to one of those players, Kenny Turnier flopped, basically. Yes, we do it too. I know that that's hard to believe because we boo people for doing it, but yes, we do it too. This team does it. Every team does it. It's not as well known and not as easy for us to see it because we're looking at it through different glasses, I guess. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit different, but yes, we do it too. This particular player did it after a fourth down because he didn't realize what down it was. So Nate Evans and Neville Clark were yelling at him, get off the field. What are you doing? This is stupid, basically. Get off the field. Stand up and walk off the field. That's what they were yelling at him about. They were yelling at him because he flopped when he shouldn't have flopped. He was tired and wanted to lay down, quote unquote. So, here is what Nate Evans had to say about that after the game, and this makes a lot more sense after what I just told you.
It wasn't really a competition. I just, I didn't want my brothers to give up on me. You know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't give up on them. And that's all it was. We cry together, we bleed together. We tired together on the field. So we just gotta suck it up. We gotta fight through it. And that's all it was, man. I just didn't want my brothers to give up on me because I was tired too, and of course I wouldn't give up on them, and they all know that. Brothers fight, right? Family fight. That's all it was. Me and Kid, we just hugged it out. You know what I'm saying? And we talked about it. That's all it was. Nothing major. It wasn't nothing like that. Like I said, I just didn't want my brothers to give up on me. The leaders, we got to come together. We can't let nobody, stray off and have that attitude. We are brotherhood. We came in this together. I've been with these guys for 4 years now. My time is limited. I have about 3-4 games left. So. And like I said, I'm here for the memories, man. I'm not worried about the next level or what comes. I do it week by week, day by day, game by game. This game, it was. I just want my boys like this. That's all.
Okay, well, so yes, that didn't look good, but there was an obvious reason that happened. He also wrote on Twitter the next day, and I have it right in front of me. Sorry if my intensity on the field offends any of you. I just love the game, and I love playing the game with my brothers. I wouldn't give up on them, and I can't let them give up on me. Everyone stay blessed. So,
to his point about family members fight and argue at times.
Happens all the time.
Yeah. as long as that's what it is.
Thanksgiving's coming up, and I'm sure you're going to witness some of it.
As long as that's what it is.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't fester, as long as it doesn't become a locker room problem. There's a lot of speculation about turmoil now. We get to see what the team is made. We've talked about this at several junctures this season. Do they rally together? Do they overcome? Because for them, by the way, it still can be a 9-win, 10-win season, which, considering a lot of different variables, it's just not meeting the expectations members of our fan base have. So they certainly can't give up on the season as we saw during 2015. It's night and day difference from that kind of experience.
So in hindsight, from what I know because of that situation, and now what you know because I told you, that was leadership we were seeing. That was not infighting. That was leadership. That was the two leaders on that defense. There may be more, but the two that I know of that are the leaders on that defense were trying to fix the problem and telling somebody they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So that's the way I'm looking at that now. I believe that was leadership. Yes, it didn't look good on television, but that's what it was.
And if you listening have better information than that, let us know. If you're talking to somebody, share it with us privately, direct message. But all the wild speculation about discord in the locker room and all of that and within the team, I mean, nobody wants to lose. They're not going to want them to be happy and complacent losing. No. But it doesn't necessarily signify a problem, and a lot of people want to read into a moment. And let's hope, we'll see, that it not turn into one.
All right, this is going to be a long show because we got basketball to talk about tonight as well.
Sports collide.
Yeah. This is when it gets a little crazy here because we've got interviews with football people, with Kyle, and then we've got Ben Stout as well coming up. So I'm going to try to get through these clips here real quick. Here's what Heupel had to say, his opening statement after that game.
Love our guys, love our football team, love our program, and obviously weren't good enough tonight, and that starts with me. And it's disappointing, and got a bye week here, get some guys healthy, and then learn the lessons from this one and move forward as we go along.
Again, right there, this is what a lot of you have been clamoring for him to say. He said it more directly than he's ever said it before. It's on me. I hope that makes people happy that he said that. I think that he heard you.
I think it's a step, and I think when he says week to week that we have things to improve upon, that we need to work on, I think we need to see what that means, though, in future games, and we're going to see that at Tulane coming out of a bye week. I've been trying to think about this chatter. I think, of course, I don't agree about this, run the coach philosophy that some have, but I've tried to frame it in my mind this way, and I'll ask you, I think it's a difficult question. You might not have a good answer. How has Josh Heupel made the program better? Like, I could say in my mind, I could answer it for George O'Leary, because I remember what the program was. I could go back, and I could answer it for Scott Frost, too. How has Josh Heupel made the program better in his 23 games?
Okay, well, that is a little bit of a different question to
It's a
ask.
difficult question.
Difficult question, yes, as well. Remember what we said when Josh Heupel was first hired. This guy is taking on the absolute hardest job in college football, because when the floor drops out of the entire thing, the fan base is going to turn on him like nobody has ever turned on a guy before. What's happening? They're turning on him like nobody's ever turned on a coach before. It's exactly what's happening, because he had such a high standard to live up to. That's not a normal standard. I don't care who you are. It's not a normal standard to win 2 years in a row undefeated. It's not normal in college football. It happens very rarely. I'll say it again. And I mean, so it's very hard for him to make it better, because how do you make a team that has won for 2 years straight undefeated better?
But there's a lot of money at stake for Danny White now.
There is, absolutely.
Right? I mean, they've ridden this wave, but maintaining the standard, building upon the standard. I didn't agree with you at the outset of the season that they could go perfect again. Is the talent there? Yes. I
was looking at it from that standpoint, though. As a talent-filled team, we didn't know who the quarterback was going to be. I kept telling you that it was going to be Dylan Gabriel. You never know. I mean, obviously it was Brandon Wimbush that started the very first game, but it didn't take long, and I told you all that. But I was looking at that, and the reason I said that was for the talent-loaded roster.
Which makes Friday's loss all the more difficult to swallow when you have the talent that, just on pure talent, you should win that game. I do think it's a
very
difficult question.
To make it, it's difficult for him as well.
And we need to get through 2 more regular season games and a bowl game before we turn our attention to 2020. We should suffer for this week and enjoy the next week and get ready for another game, because that's what college football is all about, right? The great passion of college football. We're going to have time in January and February and March to discuss things like this. But what are the expectations going to look like for 2020? On Josh Heupel,
I can tell you what those expectations are right now. The expectation is to right the ship, because the ship is listing very horribly to one side.
That's a good word choice. I like that, listing.
Finally, I thought of a word that I wanted to say.
I like that word. He was put in a very difficult position, but every game you move past that Scott Frost era. It's his recruits that we're going to start to judge. It's his next recruiting class. We're a little over a month away from the early signing period. How does UCF fill positional needs there? There are a lot of questions. I mean, a lot of progress has been made in ways we won't fully realize, with Dylan Gabriel being thrown into all sorts of difficult situations, right, that will only make him better. But we will lose a Jordan Johnson, and other players will graduate, and that will be the true mark of Josh Heupel. You know, Mike Bianchi, the Orlando Sentinel columnist, he's a provocateur, okay? Yeah. He's on
what he does.
The bandwagon. He wants clicks. He wants readership. He wants people to listen to his radio show, and then he chooses to be provocative. So the idea that he's on the UCF bandwagon when they're winning, of course, how could you not? America hated UCF for winning, but if you're local, you're going to support that team. And now a little bit of struggle, and he's going to take a shot if you read his column, or well documented on social media. But that is the risk that UCF, by saying, come after us, we're the greatest, we're the best, right?
Yep.
We're going to get everybody's best punch.
We ask for it, and this is what we get. Unless you back it up.
Now you got to take that punch and punch back.
Exactly.
And so that will not only be how Tulane and the Cows game and the bowl game play out, but I think that's a question mark about 2020, is how do they respond to some adversity this season? You know, we'll talk a little bit more and Ask Knightline about Manny's question last week about gifts to the offense, the defense, the coaching staff. But you remember what I said? I want to see him win close games on the road, and they went out and lost another close game on the road. So there are a lot of expectations on Josh Heupel. But I think the provocative question, if we're going to be provocateurs, or I am, is how has Josh Heupel improved the program through his 23 games? And I think it's going to be a question that we go back to throughout the next couple of games.
It's a great question.
And into 2020.
It's a great question. It is a very difficult question.
I don't know how to
answer
answer that question right now.
Well,
to be honest with you, I don't know how to answer it. I do think he stepped into a very, very challenging situation. You can't maintain that standard of perfection, but we can't regress.
We would love to maintain that standard. We would love to. And people say the standard has changed. Yes, it's changed a bit, but you have to be realistic. You have to be.
But no disrespect intended, but it's a 2-7 team, and you have to win at Tulsa. It is the manner in which they're losing the games.
True.
And I think that's difficult. It's not you lost with a backup quarterback in the Fiesta Bowl by 8 points to an LSU team, by the way.
Right.
We saw them emerging in that Fiesta Bowl. They knock off Alabama. Joe Burrow, the quarterback.
Could be the number one pick of the entire, NFL draft.
A month from now, they're handing him a Heisman
Trophy.
Okay,
exactly.
And if Joey Connors had just gone a little bit more of a lick on him, maybe he wouldn't have succeeded in that Fiesta Bowl.
Hindsight is 20/20 sometimes, isn't it?
But there are things that it's been an odd year. There's been a lot of questions, and you just don't want to lose the momentum.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I think the momentum has been lost quite a bit, actually. So let's hear what Josh Heupel said to the team to make this better, I guess.
I love them and appreciate their competitiveness, but there's things that all of us got to do better, and it starts with me, right? When you're ahead of the program, you got to point the thumb at yourself first, and then continue to find ways to get better.
There, he said it again. Okay, so I think that's what needs to happen the most. Josh Heupel needs to take a long, hard stare in the mirror and see exactly what is it that he's doing here. Is he coaching a football team, or is he making cupcakes? I don't know. I mean,
that's what his daughter does.
I know.
His daughter makes the cupcakes.
But whatever. I don't know. I mean, that may entail maybe giving up some of the play calling and doing more of the management on the sideline. We have an offensive coordinator in Jeff Lebby that's very capable of calling plays. I don't think that he does it. I think that it's Heupel. If you watch him on the sideline, he's looking at his card and he's talking. So I believe that he's calling the plays. If Jeff Lebby called the plays, or whoever, somebody else, call the plays, maybe he needs to give that up. We've seen that happen with coaches before, many times, giving up calling the plays. I think Frost did it, actually, at one point, a little bit, and gave a little bit more, play calling to, I don't even remember the guy's name that was the offensive coordinator. It doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't matter what your name is if you listen to The Rock. Anyway, but maybe that's something that he needs to look at and see if maybe, Jeff Lebby can see things better from up there. Josh Heupel has always called his plays from the press boxes, or from the coaching box, as far as I know. Maybe that's something that needs to change. I'm trying to think of anything here to make this better and to make, this whole thing work. So I hope that he's doing the same.
I think we are at a point, based on his statements, based on some concerns of the fan base, where we give him the benefit of the doubt as a new first-time head coach. We're 23 games into that. You hope to see progress and him be better, right? I mean, there's a learning curve that goes with the position. I am, though, through 10 games and a 7-3 record, there are still things that confound me that I don't understand. I was critical of him last year that I didn't think he effectively used Adrian Killens and Otis Anderson throughout the season. And I think, by and large, for the most part, they have been better utilized. I'm not trying to advocate for a quarterback controversy, and I think Dillon Gabriel has stepped up into the role. I still think it's questionable, the use of Darryl Mack. And let me bring this point. Okay, let me go to the last week. They try this gadget play that goes for 32 yards with Brandon Wimbush. What was the point of that play? We didn't use it this week. We didn't do any trickery. We didn't do anything that could have, improved the offense. 3 points in the second half. So the creativity there, okay? You mentioned it. Dillon took a hit. Oh, my goodness. I'm curious. I'm not questioning. I'm not questioning this. I'm curious what the concussion protocols were on the sideline.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning because I don't have any reason to question it. I was not in Tulsa, a road game I could not make. I watched on TV like the majority of our fan base. He took a tremendous hit that was a very scary
More
hit.
than one. That one was one. The other one going out of bounds earlier, I think, was even worse, to be honest with you.
I'm curious. I'm not questioning. And I'm trying to be very clear about that. And it's not what I'm trying to do here. I don't understand how the concussion protocols work there because he certainly got his bell rung. Darryl Mack comes in, runs for a first down, okay? And then we don't see Darryl Mack again. And this is the sort of thing that through 10 games, I feel like is a stubbornness about Josh Heupel that I feel like isn't learning, okay? We have a difference of opinion about penalties. You're a little bit different on it this week than earlier, but it's a question that I tend to ask him in post-game. And I've used this term, that he's been dismissive of penalties early on in the season. Now, of course, there's no way he can be dismissive of it with 15 for 120 yards.
Yeah.
Okay? But I haven't seen that kind of progress that I want to see and learning from him. And that gives me a little bit pause there that I just don't know, And so my question about how is he improving the program? It's not a run Josh Heupel. I'm not advocating that at all.
I understand.
These are some things that stick with me and that I pick up on within portions of our fan base that have been vocal and critical. Doesn't mean he can't learn and do different things. I think there's something in all of that you say, and you say it with Kyle coming up, is that when it's clicking, you don't notice problems, right? But when you go 3 and out, and the defense is back on the field, and you've burned 41 seconds of clock, and you've got 5 minutes of possession in the first half against Houston, then you notice these things a little bit more. So what do they do when it doesn't fire like they want it to fire?
And here's the thing: this is a thing about Josh Heupel. I was trying to think of another word, and it's not coming to me.
Listing? It was good from earlier.
This is a fault of Josh Heupel. I think Josh Heupel panics when it doesn't work. That's one thing of a new head coach or any head coach can't do, is panic.
Just an opinion versus something you see or you notice that you feel.
It seems to me that that's what's going on over there. His offense, this offense that he's using right now is pretty vanilla. Until it's working. When it's working, it doesn't seem so vanilla, and you can throw in those crazy plays with Brandon Wimbush running the ball and all that stuff. But when it's not working, you can't do that. When he doesn't see something that needs to be there, you can't do stuff like that. You can't. He's very conservative as far as that goes. It's a little bit different than, like, for instance, Scott Frost, and I hate to bring that into it. The thing. I hate to compare them, but it happens all the time on our social media and everything else. Everybody wants to bring Scott Frost into this. I'm going to do it as well. Scott Frost didn't... I don't think he worried. He wasn't as conservative because he would do whatever he wanted to do at any time that he wanted to do it. Basically.
Remember, he'd go for 2 points on the first touchdown.
Right.
There'd be games where
he was very aggressive. He was very aggressive. Heupel is not like that. He's very conservative as far as that goes, until it's working. But when it doesn't work, I think that he honestly doesn't know what to do because
it's not a good answer.
No, I know
that's not a good statement.
I know,
yeah.
But it seems like that's what's going on because you tried the same thing. He ran the other night and it worked. 3 of the same exact play in a row. 3 plays in a row. It was a run around the end. Run around the end. It worked. But when it stopped working, what was next? It stagnated then.
How can you not run the ball effectively against one of the worst rushing defenses in the country? When it doesn't work, how can it not work?
Well, I don't know if that was the defense that they've been running. You've heard about all these other teams changing up their defense completely. Was that the defense they've been running all year, or was that something new?
That's where you need the creativity to try something different. We're a couple games removed from not 1, but 2 tight ends catching touchdowns.
I know.
And then where are they? They go missing in action.
This is a fault of Josh Heupel, is what I'm saying. This is a fault that is becoming glaringly obvious. And even me, through my Josh Heupel loving glasses, can see that this is a fault. I see it. I mean, it's obvious. When it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But when it does, it does. You know what I'm saying? When it does, it's beautiful. It is beautiful when it's kicking on all 8 cylinders. But one of those cylinders drops out, and it's sputtering. It's sputtering, and our defense gets left on the field.
You brought up a point about being conservative. I'm trying to think of a close game that UCF's won under Josh Heupel, and it was at Memphis, and that was the big 4th down call.
Well, that wasn't so conservative.
That wasn't conservative. No. That was creative.
But have you seen him do something like that in any of these games since then?
No, I'm just thinking on losses,
right.
On close losses.
But
so I'm not thinking about the wins.
Yeah,
here.
But that play though is something like people are wondering all the time. Oh, he'll run up the middle on 3rd down. He'll run up the middle on 4th down. That was what that was. It worked. It just worked that time. And it hasn't worked more this year.
And creativity and play calling and who calls the plays aside, boy, it shows us the importance, and this is true of college
Remember
football.
a couple of weeks ago I wanted you to ask the question at one of the press conferences?
Well, we may
that
still
you-
get to that.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
that
may
you
still
wouldn't do.
Well,
Who
that's
calls
just
the
a-
plays?
yeah, I
That's
can't
all
do
I
that
want to
at a
know.
press
Who calls the plays?
Well,
It's a simple question. He won't want to answer it, but
Yeah, we'll have to figure out when the right moment is to
I
ask
know
that question.
you don't want to
but-
piss him off.
No, I don't worry about that as much. It just yeah.
Well, let's hear what he had to say
Yeah.
about this penalty situation.
Penalty's been something early in the year, midpoint of the season, something that was an issue. Last couple of weeks, we had continued to get better at them. I thought those were things that we're going to play smart. There's a lot of things. Everybody's got a share in this one tonight, and it starts with me, but when you give 3 yards away, it makes it hard to.
Again, he said it starts with me.
Which I appreciate, but now what are you going to do about it?
No, I understand
That's
that, but this is what I'm saying about taking a good long look in the mirror and figuring it out.
I asked
What can
him-
I do to make my team better? That's what a head coach needs to do.
I asked him after the Cincinnati game, going into the bye week. I go, do you use the bye week opportunity to look at you and your coaching staff, evaluate what you've been doing? And he didn't like that question. We're constantly evaluating. All right, well, you evaluate. Look in the mirror is what you're saying. Here's what I want to see. Action. I want to see changes.
Well, you should go out there and ask him that question again.
I want to see him
and see if
make changes.
Go out there and ask him that question again and see if the answer has changed.
The point I was making earlier is that it shows us football at all levels, the importance of the offensive and defensive line. This is you know what we have at quarterback, at wide receiver. You know the skill positions that we have. Boy, those games are won in the trenches. You hear it all the time, controlling the line of scrimmage. And who we have coming back, new recruits, guys that you don't know their names that are going to make an impact on next season. That's where we're really going to see Josh Heupel and his offense, his recruiting prowess. That's where that's really going to be seen.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about recruiting on Knightline the morning after this morning on ESPN 580. I can't wait to see what this recruiting class is. I know a lot of the players that we have lined up. Let's see what happens, but there's a lot of good players in there. So I'm looking forward to when the whole recruiting thing really starts happening for us knowing who's actually going to be here. Let's talk, or let's hear from the players real quick here. Let's... AK definitely, Adrian Killens definitely had some emotion after this game. Let's hear what he had to say.
It's always frustrating when you lose. We got many more games to play on our schedule, and hopefully we got to get other things to go in our favor with other teams and whatnot. But this loss was a lesson, and we just got to move on and get back on the drawing board. We're not used to being in close games like this. We're used to blowing people out and making big plays and getting stops and whatnot, getting a lot of turnovers. But tonight, we were just on the wrong side of the ball, like I said. And tonight was a lesson learned for all of us, from the coaching staff to the players. But we just got to gel together and remember this loss and not want to feel it again. Everyone knows what needs to happen. We just need to focus and dial in and just trust the process, because the coaches are going to put us in position to make big plays and be successful on the field. And we just got to trust what the coaches have instilled in us throughout the week. We just got to go out there and make those big plays. We're the ones that's on the field. They got to make those plays and execute everything on special teams, defense, and offense. And the coaches are just giving us the keys to make big plays, and they did just that. But tonight, we just, as a unit, as a UCF football team, we just came up short.
All right. Well, he is still buying in on what the coaches are saying. So,
Adrian Killens.
So at least that's good. Jordan Johnson also had very similar things to say after the game.
It was very frustrating, especially since we took a couple losses early in the season and we really wanted to win out the rest of them. All the seniors wanted to go out with a bang, trying to finish strong, and we disappointed a lot of our fans and stuff like that, and we want to just attack the rest of these games. We always feel like if something doesn't go as planned, it's our doing, because we know that when we're hitting on all cylinders, we're the best team in the nation.
All right. When we're hitting on all cylinders, we're the best team in the nation.
But you're not going to always hit on all cylinders.
Nope. So we'll see, I guess, what happens. That's it for the clips. So very short amount of clips this week, just because I don't, whatever. I want to move on from this.
Yeah.
It's we're not quite there yet, though.
I thought part of our dialogue here certainly was interesting and reflective of where we are after this game in the season. You know, it's different not doing the show Friday night and recording Sunday night. You get a little bit of perspective. And
yeah, and I normally so I made my notes. I went to bed and I didn't make my notes for the Sunday morning show right after the game, which I normally do because it's usually a late ending game or whatever, and it's normally the very next day, the morning after. So I went to bed and I just at some point fell asleep finally because I was thinking about all these things, but I always usually try to have something positive to talk about. There was nothing that I could find this week. And if you were to look at my notes for that show, which are very small, there was nothing positive. So, yeah, I don't like it when it's like that. I would rather have something good to say, but there's just not. The one good thing that did happen this week is that Gabriel Davis got his 1,000 yards. That's good. So there you go. I came up with something positive.
I got positive for you. UCF receiving 2 votes in the coaches poll, 1 in the AP,
2. Oh, God.
which may evaporate during the bye week. They may lose those votes, but that puts them 36th, huh? 36.
Boy. Went from 26 to 36 for losing to freaking Tulsa.
Well, wait till you hear the latest in bowl projections for UCF football, one of which has
the Toilet Bowl.
Cure Bowl in Orlando being
cool.
mentioned. Next, though, more post-Tulsa meltdown talk when former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel joins us on the Knightline hotline.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
Welcome to Inside the Huddle with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel, brought to you by the Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous. Waterford Lakes, 855 North Althea Trail, Orlando.
Let's talk about UCF football with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel. You know, Kyle, I spent some time, I got to tell you, thinking about what that opening question is going to be for you. And if we had talked on Friday night, it would have sounded like this. What in the hell happened? However, with 48 hours to get my thoughts together, the opening question is this. What is the identity of this team? Who is this team? Because I'm struggling to understand what we're looking at in 2019.
Well, I think that's been a question in a conversation that we've continued to have throughout the course of the season. You know, the way that we defined that question may have been who are the leaders and where are our strengths, but this team I don't think has a real identity right now, and I try to ponder that question as I'm answering and say, okay, you know, am I just being lazy by saying that? But there's nothing that comes to mind really. Obviously, I think that we're a team that can strike very quickly and has the ability to score a ton of points. We saw that, you know, it was 63 points against Temple. But we're not a team that is good enough to mask our own mistakes and overcome hurting ourselves. We're just not that team. And, you we're a team with a true freshman quarterback. And, I think that this game isn't on Dylan at all, but there are a number of things that have ripple effects throughout the offense and other areas of the team when you make a decision to continue to go with, a younger quarterback. And I think that's the right move personally, but I don't know that we have that identity. It all seemed to kind of start to fade a bit, Trace, when Mackenzie went down against South Florida last year, and I don't think we've really figured out who we are since.
Should we be able to see it in the stands, watching on TV? Should we be able to see that leadership? I'm thinking to 2017, that was a year really defined by Shaquem Griffin, and then Mackenzie really is the catalyst in 2018. Would we be able to see this?
Well, I think that... Yeah, I think that sometimes those things are pretty evident. I think there are a lot of contributors to teams many times that, go unnoticed by the fan or an unsung hero or those sorts of things. But, those guys were so transcendent that it was so known and clearly perceived that those guys were the leader, and that people really kind of stayed in line and in cadence with those individuals. I don't know that there's anybody setting that tone right now. And I think, one of the things is when you have a number of transfers that come in and recruits that were part of a former regime, that are older classmen, and then players that are from the new regime that are younger classmen, there's always going to be interesting dynamics that unfold throughout, over time. And I don't know that any of those scenarios that we just addressed were reason enough for us to go on the road to Tulsa and lose a football game.
At Chris T. Davis 034 on Twitter sent a comment that fell into Ask Knightline, but I think it's appropriate considering our discussion. He goes, "What happened to the attitude this team has had over the last 2 seasons? I understand KZ went down. We had a small sample size with Mac, but the whole team looks different with Dylan. Not on him by any means. There just seems to be this uninspired ho-hum feel this year. I mean, you've talked about it at Pittsburgh where you didn't feel the energy, and it's hard to get energy on a cold night in Tulsa, Oklahoma with not much turnout by anybody. But somebody's got to step up and carry that team and motivate that team, or you're going to lose 37-34 in what is arguably one of the worst losses in the the modern UCF football era."
Well, it's certainly, I think one of the, is the worst loss in my opinion. I mean, since the Cure Bowl to Arkansas State in 2016, that game was just terrible actually at the time. But when you have this scenario where we go on the road and face a team that's 2-7, if it's not going to be individuals, and if the team isn't going to respond to individuals, then the next thing you really got to look to on a football team is units, and units got to step up, and collectively guys got to lead. And a lot of times the easiest places to do that is on the interior and with the offense and defensive line. And I don't know that for a team in Tulsa that has given up over 200 yards rushing a game, and with an offense like ours who averages 224 yards per game rushing, I would have expected that the offensive line was going to absolutely set the tone in that football game. And I don't know that ever happened. That's just, my opinion. But yes, if you're not going to have individuals, then you would look for collective units to step up. And those are the guys I really would have liked to see step up the other night. But, I would say that their play was questionable.
Well, you mentioned the offensive line. It just let me go back on something. Mentioned Mackenzie Milton. I mean, are we at a point where we can say really Mackenzie, his unique style of play, his unique skill set really masked deficiencies, especially along the offensive line? Maybe we all got lulled into a false sense of security that the O-line would be stronger this season.
Well, a lot of people wanted to say that and feel that way. You got to, remember we lost guys that were, a guy like Wyatt Miller, who was a key contributor on the left side of that line last year for us. And we've, lost guys like Aaron Evans over the years and others. So there's been good players that have moved on that, were in those spots for 3 or 4 seasons, and that we, got very accustomed to. And so I think that many people thought the line would be very improved, but it's hard to get critical of players when they're playing within an offense. And so sometimes it's hard to tell, is it our offensive line that is, doesn't seem to be establishing line of scrimmage? Is the way that our plays are designed? I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not going to place blame, but you would have anticipated that based on the week that they had the last couple of weeks, that they would have continued that momentum because they had been playing very well.
15 penalties. Most glaring and notable is you make a defensive stand at the end of the game. I'm going to flip the field, give the offense the ball back, and you have, I don't know, was it 13 people on the field? It was at least 12, right?
Yeah.
Coming out of a timeout. And we've talked about this. It's been a reoccurring theme throughout the season, and I've posed this question to you, and you've said players have to step up. I mean, is that still a players only, or is it shared responsibility? What more can coaches do? I ask you because Coach O'Leary was, very focused on that, and it may have been fear and intimidation that was part of his game plan with the players, but UCF was typically disciplined during his tenure.
Well, we've been less disciplined this season, than certainly in recent memory. There's no doubt about that. Do I think that all 15 of those calls were actually penalties the other night? No, I don't. But I still think we had 10, 11, legitimate penalties. And I said last week and the last couple of weeks that, a lot of this, at times I would place blame on the players, but I don't know how do you place blame on anybody else in that scenario other than Coach Heupel. I mean, anyway, that it filters down through, if there was an individual that was supposed to be responsible for counting players, if whoever called the play in, whoever was in charge of the personnel, there's probably about 10 other people that it was supposed to filter to without Coach Heupel having to worry about it in that situation. But at the very minimum, if I'm the head coach of the football team, in that spot, the only thing that's going to kill us right there is if we, have a penalty. And we have 13 guys on the field, and you go back and watch it. It's almost like he saw it before the flag was thrown, and really almost couldn't do anything about it. And so some of those penalties and some of the that one specifically is going to be magnified. To me, that is absolutely on Coach Heupel. Just at the end of the day, I don't know who else to place blame on.
I know it's a theme Andrew has hit on several times this year because there have been 3 losses on the road, but he has said, as have fans, why is this team so different on the road than they are at home? At my checkmark PLE1, can Kyle walk us through what a game day prep at home versus on the road is like? Given all the losses, is the team missing something in the routine leading up to the game? And I know teams are different, so it's different coaches, different teams, but what goes into the prep? Well, I mean, you're watching the same stuff we are. I mean, they don't look like the same team that, beat Houston a week ago.
No, it's almost like everybody on our team is looking for somebody else to make the big play and create the spark. I think we've got accustomed to that just kind of naturally happening. When you look at travel specifically, it is different. You mentioned that, Trace, from coach to coach and staff to staff. There's no doubt about that. For me, it's just I don't want to sound like the old man here, 12 years removed from playing, but there is a lot of freedom and flexibility taking place in pregame. And that may be happening at home games as well, but it's easier to be a little bit more focused when you're comfortable in your own confines. I notice our pregame social media for UCF football, and by the way, those guys do a phenomenal job, Eric DeSalvo and Jimmy Skiles and their crew, but it just seems like there's some natural maybe things that could become distractions where, players are doing photo shoots, really hamming it up for the camera. Do I think that those necessarily have an impact on the way that players play? That's a really hard question to answer, but I think it may be a, small snapshot of some of the looseness that's going on. And we've done a very good job while we've been winning of kind of handling that. And, winning cures everything. So you don't even maybe recognize it. And it's just fun social media recruiting help. But I don't know if there's distractions. I think obviously there's people on the team that would know that. But I guarantee you that these guys are taken care of, very, very well, and their days are planned out up until the game really, really well. So I don't think that it's something, within the travel plans or meetings or those sorts of things. But if there was one thing I would say, that stuck out to me, it's, man, we're kind of really, really loose prior to games, probably more so than most teams are.
You kind of said it earlier. Hi, by the way, I am here. We talked about a lot of this stuff this morning. That's why I kind of letting Trace ask the questions.
Yeah.
We also talked about this. One thing, though, that, like, you mentioned it a little bit. Would we notice that kind of stuff if they were winning? If they were winning and they were playing around and they were loose, we'd think, oh, great. They're loose and they're not, gosh, look at them. They're having so much fun.
Yeah.
But when they're losing, it's a completely different story.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's one of those real fine line type of things. But, it's a little bit easier when you got a winning streak going. But when you've gone on the road 2 times previously and made mistakes and struggled and lost games that you should have won, and you're coming off a short week going to a place where you should have known in advance. I mean, I told you guys on the podcast last week, I'm pretty positive they're basically going to be playing in a high school or less environment. That's exactly what it was. And
16,000 people.
You got to be maybe
that's their number.
And go in there and I said, dominate the game, get out ahead, really show Tulsa that you're there and that you're not messing around. And we just kind of allowed them to stay in the football game and killed ourselves with our own mistakes. So yeah, it is one of those things. If we're winning, nobody's saying anything about it. But now that we've lost 3 on the road and in the fashion that we have, it's not because we got beat by the other team. It's because we beat ourselves.
So with your noticing them being so loose and stuff, is this an overconfidence thing? That's what I wonder. Are they overconfident when they go into these things? Oh, we got this. One of the players actually said that they thought that maybe that was the problem. I think it was Jordan Johnson actually that said it. We need to stop thinking we have this and it's all under control. And go in there and take it serious and keep the hammer down or something like that. I can't remember if that's what he said or whatever, but it seems like maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. I mean, I'm dumbfounded by this. I've been talking about it the entire time, like Trace said. I even was saying it Friday night. I'm like, this is like night and day, I think was actually what I said, between on the road and at home. You can't play one way at home. I mean, they play like they're the best team in the country when they play at home most of the time. And then when they go on the road, it's like they should be an 0-whatever team.
We look like a different program at home and on the road. There's no doubt about that. And frankly, we're in a conference where you're not going to go and get the best game day environment that's naturally going to get those, chemicals in your brain all fired up.
Is the environment at our stadium, the bounce house, that great? Is it that great that these players would be so inspired by playing at home that they would play the way they do at home versus the way they do on the road?
Well, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of saying like there's this huge difference of, the level of inspiration guys are feeling. What I am saying is it's very obvious that there's disparity in our conference in regards to, the environments that these teams are playing in. And I think our team is naturally better at home. We have one of the best game days in all of college football, according to ESPN last year. So are those things, we're being really ticky tacky here, but,
I'm just trying to figure it out because
I do think it is something that needs to be considered. And frankly, it's a little bit concerning that this team and guys like Jordan Johnson, who's been essentially a 4-year starter for us, are saying that they got to just, quit thinking that they're going to go out there and win the football game. Because again, you've put a target on your back. You've wanted the target. You've created it. But you better believe me, if Tulsa thought that they were going to get anything out of this season going in that game Friday night, they made their season by beating us. They're going into their off season, even with 3 or 4 games left, probably feeling pretty good about themselves. And we were going in there thinking that it was a short week, a game that we needed to get through, and those are 2 very different mindsets that have big impacts throughout the course of football games.
And with Houston and ECU coming up, they could go on a roll, and Friday night's game may have been enough to save Philip Montgomery's job. Quite honestly, it might be able to turn things around because they've been competitive. I think we look at the record of 2-7 and dismiss them, and maybe the players did that to some degree as well. But if you looked behind the box score there, they were really competitive in these games. I'm going to take you to a word, the definition of which is having or showing dogged determination not to change one's attitude or position on something, especially in spite of good arguments or reasons to do so. The word is stubborn. And might that be an appropriate word to affix to Josh Heupel, who seems determined to do something a certain way and maybe not deviate from that plan?
Well, I mean, I think that if you go back and look at his time at Missouri, I can even think I saw firsthand my cousin Tucker Israel was playing in in a bowl game against Oklahoma a couple years back, and I saw that was Coach Heupel's last year at Oklahoma, and Clemson completely shut them down. There was just no variety to Oklahoma's offense that game, and it kind of looked similar to ours, and screens out to the sideline and deep shots down the field. That is how he's trying to build our offense. That's the offense that he runs. I still think, guys, that, he is very creative. But that creativity only seems to kind of rear its head coming out of certain situations throughout the course of the game. And we've kind of said it all season. After timeout, start of possessions, we're very creative. But when we get into this hurry-up offense, I mean, it's great when we're scoring in 41 seconds and we can jump up 21 or 28-0 on Stanford. Like, the offense looks like the best thing ever. But when you go you go 2 3-and-outs, or you're just running RPOs and running guys right up the middle and trying to basically, spread the field out to create lanes. There's not a lot of variety in that. And teams are figuring out how to keep 5 or 6 guys in the box, float some outside linebackers who are actually safeties out between our wide receivers and the interior line, and just sprint those guys in to make tackles once our running backs decide they need to bounce outside. And, football is a copycat game. We saw Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and even Tulsa and other teams all try to do the same things against us. And so, it is, I'll just leave it at that. I mean, I think that we're going to have to continue to get more creative. I think what we will see, which is an extremely positive thing, is as time goes on with Dylan Gabriel, and coach is is really comfortable with, him being comfortable to audible, changing plays at the line of scrimmage, doing things where Dylan has more control, in between plays. Maybe we get in an up-tempo situation and Dylan calls every play down the field. And we never even go to the sideline. Those are things that we'll see throughout Dylan's career that will make us a better football team. And I think that will force Coach Heupel to, become a better play caller, because Dylan will be able to handle more. But right now, when we get in these tough games, it seems to be that we kind of go back to the same style. And it works at times, and other times it really is detrimental.
So we've got 3 games left. We've got a road game at Tulane. We've got a home game against USF, and we've got some kind of bowl game. I mean, period.
Yeah.
Is now the time for wholesale changes? Whatever's not working, they're not really gonna change anything, I don't think, at this point, right?
No, I don't think we're going to change anything. And again, I mean, we're looking at making, there's people calling for Coach Heupel's job, other people's job. Like, people are saying things that are like seismic shifts in programs and in people's lives and in families' lives. And, and we're making those decisions based off a few, acute scenarios inside of football games. And, those are really big decisions to make and really drastic decisions to make should a coach get fired over having 13 players on the field? Some people would say, hell yeah, because he's getting paid $1.5 million a year. At a minimum, he should be able to do that. But, in other terms, he's done so very well. And so I think that it's very ridiculous to think that we need to wholesale change anything. I'm really, really, I know that we're in this season, but I am super, super excited about next year and the future, because the quarterback is the catalyst to it all. McKenzie was the catalyst to our success. The last 2 years, Blake Bortles was the catalyst to our success in the Fiesta Bowl. And Dylan Gabriel's a guy that's going to be a catalyst for a lot of success, in my opinion, in the future. And I think that Coach Heupel will get better with time, like other coaches. He is essentially a sophomore coach. Not exactly from a play calling perspective, but from understanding how to motivate players to play at their highest level at all times and in any situation. And I think that he'll continue to get better, just like the players will continue to get better.
And there's a big change from going from, I'm going to defend Heupel again here real quick. It's a big change going from offensive coordinator to head coach and having to deal with everything. It's a big change. So, I mean, that has to be some of it. It has to be, there's a lot that he has to do that he never had to deal with before.
There's no doubt about that. I think that like players, the more reps you get at something, the better you get at something, the more organized you are, the better you get. I would just be very careful about our fan base. And how we're putting out there on social media so much negativity. We may be our own worst enemies, because the people that are a lot of times evaluating the fan base the most on social media is the players that we're trying to recruit to come to our university and their parents. And when we start talking about firing coaches, that's the same guy that's got to go sit in that 4-star recruit's living room and convince him to come to our university. And we need to be as helpful to that process as possible, in my opinion. And we've seen it with Alabama and that loss, Nick Saban, people calling for his job. There's small increments of each program that are going to have some ludicrous, asinine fans, I should say.
I agree 100% with.
There's no doubt
the
about that.
recruiting part of it.
But you got to be careful, because as much as we're able to socially interact and really create, places to celebrate UCF and to love our program and support it, there's a lot of people that are evaluating what's being said there. And a lot of that, can be detrimental to what we really want is our future success.
So there are a couple of must-follow Twitter handles, at UCF_Knightline, of course, at KIsrael07, but I got to direct you to one, at CrazyFanTakes. And I'm going to read you this one here. Been coming to Alabama football for 35 years now. Currently watching our fans file out of Bryant-Denny at halftime by the thousands. Unacceptable. Fire Saban. Nick Saban. Hey, here's one. I just left Bryant-Denny with an awful taste in my mouth. I'm afraid this is an end of an era and the end of my donations. We need to move on from Nick. Hashtag Fire Saban. The guy's been pretty successful. Perhaps this is just the environment in which we live. And to the point of recruits following social media, I can say I see it all the time. Every other day, a prospective recruit will follow Knightline just to get the pulse of the fan base. And, of course, the most active people in the meltdown on Friday night may not speak for the entire fan base, but there's a lot of foundation that has been laid that should be stronger than 3 losses by a total of 7 points. It's disappointing, but let's just not throw out the whole house here.
Well, listen, I can understand the frustration that I had for an hour after that football game when you say to yourself, we lost to a 2-7 Tulsa, right? Like, to just have to cope with that and get past that, that's the initial reaction. So I feel that sensation of frustration. But, at the same time, let me tell you something. My grandfather went to Alabama. I had a couple of second uncles or second cousins that played at Alabama. My family moved here from there in 1963 to Orlando. My grandparents' living room is literally from the floor to the ceiling decked out in Alabama memorabilia. If there is a diehard Alabama family, it's mine. And so I know that ravage fandom that these schools have, and the pride that these boosters and alumni have for universities. And even at Alabama, it's ridiculous to have those type of individuals. And Kareem Reed, my former teammate at UCF, I tweeted something yesterday morning about our fans being ridiculous, for lack of a better term. I don't remember what I said. And he said, I disagree. We should be proud that our fans are so into it. And I've said that for 10 years. I am proud that we have, the momentum and the support that we do, because it didn't exist for a long period of time. But at the same time, there are some that are just ridiculous, and we need to be conscious of that.
All right, Kyle, we're going to let you go here. Talk to us about what's going on with the Little Greek.
Well, the Little Greek, we are actually just trying to get everything worked out to get the Apopka location open here before the end of 2019. So really just focus on that and working out some holiday specials right now. We have a lot of catering packages for around Thanksgiving. I don't anticipate that anybody will cater Little Greek for Thanksgiving, but around the holidays we have quite a bit of catering packages. We're doing a lentil soup special and some other things in all of our locations here in Orlando. So again, I always appreciate the support. And we're about halfway through expanding into this market.
All right, man. Well, we will talk to you next week in a bye week.
Sounds good. Hopefully, I don't know what we're going to talk about.
I don't either, but maybe we won't. We'll see.
I'm pulling for Minnesota, though. I feel like Minnesota is the UCF of 2019, so I'm going to become a PJ Fleck fan for the rest of the season.
All right, sounds good. All right, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All righty, guys.
All right, good to hear from Kyle again.
I like the conversation with Kyle.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you had most of it, so it was good. I already talked to him today, so.
All right, trying to make sense of these bowl games. And it's been, I've got travel out to Denver for Christmas, and I'm trying to accommodate all of these, a lot of variables going on, work, travel, bowl games, and I made travel plans today. So hopefully it'll all work out, but making sense of the bowl projections is a mess. Okay, CBSSports.com and 24/7 Sports have UCF and Arkansas State in a Cure Bowl rematch
again. Wow.
In Orlando. That'd be
interesting.
Saturday, December 21. That one works in my calendar right now. The Action Network has the Knights and Iowa State in the Liberty Bowl. I think that one's promising.
That could be interesting.
December 31st. That's an intriguing matchup.
Yeah, especially against Brock Purdy, who was supposed to be our quarterback.
So ESPN.com out with two different projections. One is the Charlotte and UCF in the Gasparilla Bowl, and Marshall and UCF in the Frisco Bowl. Yeah, you just can't wait for those, huh? So anyway,
do we have to?
It makes sense.
Maybe they could, do one of those things where we're not. No, we'll just not go to a bowl.
What I don't see this week anywhere is Boca Raton Bowl, and there may be a reluctance on the part of UCF and the American to return to Boca Raton, having played at FAU. Yeah. So with the Cows game in Orlando at UCF, maybe that increases the likelihood that UCF might be interested in the recruiting platform that would exist playing in Tampa. By the way, that is a Monday, December 23 game at 2:30 in the afternoon.
I'm looking forward to this Cure Bowl, actually.
It's at the soccer stadium.
I know,
it's
it might be
Orlando
fun.
City Soccer
I've never
Stadium.
been there. I haven't been to the soccer stadium yet.
You haven't been yet?
No, believe it or not.
There you go.
All right. Nate Evans selected to play in the 2020 Hula Bowl in Honolulu on January 26th. The College Football Showcase returns after a 12-year absence, so that's kind of like a Senior Bowl type thing that they're morphing that into now, which is pretty cool. And then up next, we have a bye week.
We're favored. We're favored.
We're favored. Oh, okay.
We're favored in that bye week. No odds on the bye week. You're going to have one of our regulars joining you on the post game.
Yes, Ben Stout will be joining me on Knightline the morning after on 580 ESPN Orlando.
It is basketball season.
Yeah, so we're going to start off that deal. And, we're going to talk about basketball during the bye week. We may talk a little bit of football, too, because Ben can talk football. He's
very passionate about that as well.
We will be doing that. Please listen, and I know a lot of you are listening. There's not a lot of you calling, so I need y'all to call, because this is what we're doing. We're doing a call-in show. And so I need more of you to call, except for Andrew every week, which is awesome that Andrew calls every week.
It's absolutely
not dissing
awesome. Andrew and Oviedo.
I'm not dissing. No, I'm saying I want other people to call with Andrew. Yeah, Andrew, I love
only
that he
call-in
calls.
show in the market that is focused on UCF.
Yeah.
And, when you go other places, this is how Paul Feinbaum got his stature, is being on the radio talking Alabama-Auburn football 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year.
Yeah.
Let's
kick
up the conversation.
We're going to do it all year long. We're going to talk about basketball. We're going to talk about all the stuff that we talk about on here as well. So, and we're going to have football in every show. It's not going to be just basketball. We're going to talk about recruiting. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. So I need you all to call in, even if you have something, especially actually, if you have something to argue with me about or want to tell me how wrong I am, please call me.
Oh, Manny, that's an invitation.
Yep, Manny, that's you.
You can
that
call
is you,
in from
my
Texas.
friend.
You know what was positive, UCF not in that top 25, but 4 American schools made moves. Cincinnati 17, Memphis 18, SMU 20, Navy 21, on the verge of 4 schools in the top 20. Yeah. So that's positive.
Well, that was an excellent segue, Trace. I really appreciate it. Here is Jeff Allen to tell us about the week in the American with the AAC Report Scoreboard.
Time now to take a look around the American. Shane Buechele threw for 414 yards and 5 touchdowns as number 25 SMU outlasted East Carolina 59-51. Holton Ahlers tossed 6 TDs in defeat for the Pirates. The Mustangs moved to 9-1 on the year, 5-1 in conference to hold a half-game lead over Memphis. But the Tigers own the tiebreaker with last week's win over the Ponies. ECU falls to 3-7, 0-6 in conference. Number 20 Cincinnati rolled to an easy 48-3 win over UConn. The Bearcats go to 8-1, 5-0 in conference play to lead the East by 2 games. The Huskies drop to 2-8, 0-6 in league play. Thursday night, Jagger Gardner rushed for a career-high 133 yards as Temple moved to 6-3, 3-2 in conference with a 17-7 win over South Florida. The Bulls fall to 4-5, 2-3 in conference. Memphis, Navy, Houston, and Tulane were all idle this week. I'm Jeff Allen. We will break down Week 11 and set up Week 12 in football action, including our Spotlight Game of the Week. I'll have my nickels worth on UCF because 2 cents is not enough on their 34-31 loss at Tulsa, and we'll have highlights of the first week of college basketball. All that and more on this week's AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
All right, men's basketball, speaking of which, UCF, they get the win. We're going to be talking about it with former UCF men's basketball player Ben Stout. All this and so much more only on Knightline number 210.
You've heard us talk about the great food at our good friend Kyle Israel's restaurant, The Little Greek Fresh Grill. The Little Greek now has franchises available. Please call 407-697-2272. That's 407-697-2272 to see what The Little Greek can do for you. Also, check out The Little Greek's newest location at 6536 Old Brick Road in Windermere, Florida. The Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous.
Haven't done this in a while. Let's talk UCF men's basketball. 73-69 home opening win over Prairie View A&M. This is really a new-look team, as we're going to talk about with Ben. I mean, you know the names. There's no more Taco Fall. By the way, it was odd seeing the opening, tip.
Did we get it?
We got it.
Okay,
but
I didn't see the very
there was no Taco and no B.J. Taylor, Aubrey Dawkins, Terrell Allen, Chad Brown. But several players showing up in the box score. Alabama transfer Dazon Ingram. You're going to want to watch for him. He had a team-high 16 points. Very nervous in front of the microphone, though, so he's going to have to get past that. He walks up to the microphone post-game. I'm very nervous, he says to Colin Smith. Smith dropped in 14. And then UCF released right before the game, cleared by the NCAA to play, Texas A&M transfer Brandon Mahan with 12 points. So wasn't always pretty, and I think everybody's just going to have to accept that it's not always going to go like you've seen, last season during the magical run, into the NCAA tournament. But it could be some fun basketball, and we've got some sound now from Coach Dawkins and Colin, and, they're upbeat about the season.
Yeah, so I took everything or most of the stuff that I really liked that Dawkins said, and I just kind of jumbled it all together here. It's a long thing here, 3 minutes and something.
That's not long.
But listen to what he has to say. He had a lot to say after the game.
We beat a very good basketball team with a really good tradition. Last year, an NCAA tournament team returned a number of players from that team that had success, and they have a terrific coach. And you can tell by how they executed, how hard they played. And so I think it's a very good win for us. I'm really proud of Darren to throw him in, as we were under fire in that second half, down 5 at one point, and for him to step up and make some of the plays and make some of the shots he made says a lot about him. But we have confidence. We've seen him every day in practice. He's been practicing very well, especially the last 3 weeks. And so I just felt right to put him in, and he delivered. And with Frank has done that, all last season for us. He stepped up and made big shots for us and big plays. And so, of course, just really happy for him because I think he had 2 big threes back to back when we may have been down 5 that kind of turned it for us. So I was really happy that he was able to step up. The thing I liked about the offense the most was that, this is one of our higher assist numbers. Like, I think we have a team that moves the ball a little bit better, and this is a very difficult team to do that against because it's full court pressure, they're pressing, and so they're really disruptive. But I thought our guys did a really good job of moving the basketball. 17 assists with one of our high water marks in making connecting plays. So I think our ball movement was really good. Got a lot of good looks because of that. But that was the strength. We have to lock in better defensively. We have to be better on the three-point line defensively for sure. I thought we gave up too many, good open looks from behind the arc. So I think our three-point defense has to be better. We have to do a better job of keeping guys in front of us. I think our chemistry is going to be good. I think we got to clean up a few things. We were a little sloppy at times, but by and large, I thought our team chemistry is good. I think we really share the basketball. The assist number doesn't lie. I think, 17 assists on, 23 field goals. I mean, that's pretty good, So that means we're doing more making passes to one another and getting shots as opposed to guys going one-on-one trying to create shots. So I like that, and these guys have done a good job of that pretty much all summer and all fall, considering you have 9 new players. They really do, enjoy passing each other the ball, which I like to see. I learned that they have a big heart and they can play with poise when they have to. I mean, down 5, we had lost all the momentum to start the second half. And to see our guys, dig deep, under that type of adversity says a lot about the type of team you have. And so I was happy to see that we have a team that have a big heart, that will fight back when we're behind. We're still trying to find out, about our full rotations and what we want to do. It's our first game. This is the first time these guys have played under lights, in Division I. So, we want to just kind of see who we have and, what matchups, are good for us, what lineups are the best lineups for us. And I think sometime this year's team, I don't know if we'll have a set 5, a starting 5. I'm looking at our team, I think, it's going to be a game-by-game thing. So you're looking at our opponents, like this team, they play with 4 and 5 guards at times. Even their bigs are like guards. So it's a tough game to have, often have Avery and Colin, both out there at the same time. Ibrahim, guys that are actually true bigs. So we had to adjust to that. The next game, I haven't seen Miami yet, but we'll look and see kind of what they have and how they play, and we'll have to adjust based on, what we see. But it could be the same lineup. It may be a different lineup. It just depends on the matchups for us.
Strong student turnout tonight. How much do you need their energy on Tuesday?
Hey, I don't think we get it done tonight without their energy. I think when we got down by 5 and we started making that comeback, hit a couple threes, it got really loud in here, and that's what we have to have. That gives us a home court advantage. So, I was really, really, excited to see the student section full. And if they do that, we're not going to let them down. We're going to come out and play our hearts out like we did tonight.
And here's one more clip from Colin Smith talking about team chemistry.
What do you guys think about team chemistry tonight? That's been a big question going into this season, how you guys will play on the court together.
I feel like today we got out the jitters. I feel like we were still learning each other out there, since we were actually in a real game situation. And, there's a lot of things that can affect the game, whether it's the crowd, whether it's the other players, whether it's your coaches. And I feel like that as far as chemistry goes, that we kind of like ignored all that stuff and then just came together and pulled out the win.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Knightline's own 7-footer, Ben Big Social Stout, and Inside the Paint.
Let's talk UCF men's basketball with former UCF men's basketball player Ben Stout, who is in the paint and who joins us now on the Knightline hotline. Ben, you know, we have several thousand new listeners since you joined us throughout the last basketball season. Maybe reintroduce yourself to start. You played when and position and all of those good things.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's good to be back on with you all, and I'm happy for all the new listeners and the returning listeners. Get excited to get this basketball season started. But I played for UCF for 2 years out of high school. I played 02 to 04. So I came out of Dr. Phillips High School. I'm a local guy. Played at Dr. Phillips and was recruited by a few different schools. Wound up being able to stay home with the Knights. So I was super excited about that. And I was there during a couple of really great seasons, and and the teammates that I had there are my brothers to this day. That's for sure. It being the 04 season being the best. Best season I was a part of, the 03-04 season, where we got to go to the NCAA tournament, first time in years, and they wound up going back-to-back at 04-05. They were able to repeat that. And up until this past basketball season, that was the last time we had gone to the NCAA tournament. So those were certainly some great years, and we broke the school record for a win streak during that sophomore year, that 04 year. We won 14 straight, and we had some great players on that team. And so certainly it was a great time with the Knights, and I bleed black and gold ever since 02. So I'm excited to keep talking about this season, and I'm looking forward to it.
And make sure you tell everybody where they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at BigSocial32.
And also, if they don't know you in person, if they've never seen you before, tell them there's something very different about you.
Yeah, so I am 7'1". That is rather unique about me. Yeah, so I'm 7'1", and we had and Taco Fall was a player that bumped me to, I think, 4th all-time, or maybe 3rd all-time tallest UCF basketball players in history. So I'm still in the top 3, top 4, but certainly 7'1" is my height, and that is one of the more unique things about me, is you meet me in person.
Absolutely.
How many tacos tall are you? Oh no, that was last year's. Forget about that.
I remember that.
Forget about that. But we do know also that you're a craft beer aficionado, so this is another positive about you. Let's talk about this 73-69 win, home opener over Prairie View A&M. UCF overcomes the 5-point deficit to win. Let's sort of combine a little game recap with a little season preview. What did you like from what you saw?
Yeah, I think what I liked is really Colin Smith just kind of stepping into his own. I mean, he was, as everyone's talking about leading into this season, I mean, he was the 4th option on last year's team with the huge leaders that we had in that starting lineup, and then even coming off the bench last year. I mean, when you're behind Taco Fall, such a unique player, Colin deferred a lot to him. Not only deferred to him on the defensive end, which is very easy to do, and I don't think he was able to really display how good he can be as a defender, but certainly deferred to him, with the exception of maybe that terrific game he had at Houston last year. Certainly deferred to Taco and DJ last year on the offensive end. And he's got a very unique skill set, and I was excited to see him, especially when we were struggling in the second half late yesterday. He had a few plays in a row when the game was kind of in the balance with about 3 minutes left, and he just kind of took over, and he's just a really skilled big man, and I'm excited to see him kind of step into that kind of number one option role this year. And then the other thing I was really pumped to see is, I don't want to call him necessarily the replacement, but I think every fan of this team over the last few years is looking for that. Who's going to step into that point guard role and really be that strong leader that B.J. Taylor was? And I think Daison Ingram can really be that guy for us. He's a big, strong point guard. He can get into the paint and make plays, whether he finishes with contact at the rim or he's really good at that drive and kick game. And we saw a few instances of that yesterday. So I was excited to see what Colin Smith really stepping into that kind of main number one role, and then Daison Ingram really leading the offense and leading the team from that point guard position. So those are the two bright spots, along with some great defense that you saw at times from our team. I think it's going to be an exciting team and one that's going to be really easy to root for this year. I think Knights fans are going to be excited with what they see.
Texas A&M transfer Brandon Mahan put up 12 against Prairie View, and it was announced right before the game that he would be eligible. There was some question about that. How does this change the complexion of the team having him?
Yeah, I didn't know much about him up until a few weeks ago because, to be honest with you, I didn't think that we were going to see him at all this year because it looked like he was going to be a redshirt. But in a few of the interviews that you did, Trace, with some of the team, and then some others that I had heard just in the media in general, a lot of the players kind of brought his name up as a player that was really versatile and kind of super athletic. He could shoot, and it was just kind of a few times that Colin Smith and a few other players just kind of went out of their way to mention Brandon's name. So he seems like certainly a player from the guard position that is another big guard that is on this team that can shoot the ball really well, and he has some athleticism to him. So I was really excited to see that he had become eligible, and they announced that right before the game started. And I think he showed out pretty well yesterday. I mean, dropping those 12 points that you talked about. He had a few sloppy plays here and there, but for the most part, I think his Knights debut was really strong. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him kind of sneak his way into the starting lineup eventually, and certainly be a big part of what this team is going to do this year.
So I'm looking at this roster, and, I'm not the biggest basketball fan, but we need to talk about it. I notice just, kind of being the casual basketball fan, I recognize 3 names on this roster. Obviously, Frank Burtz, he was kind of a favorite of mine because of the way. Colin Smith, obviously. And who's the other one here? Cesar De Jesus.
Yeah.
The rest of the guys I know nothing about. We're going to learn quickly, I guess, watching basketball this year. But is there anything you can tell us about any of these guys that, will show, I guess, make us look at these guys or something special that they bring to the table?
Yeah, as far as the newcomers and what they bring to the table, I think what we're going to – I mean, you're right, Andrew. I mean, I think we have 19% of our scoring back from last year. It might be even less than that. It might be like 13% or something. It's just something crazy. The amount of turnover is something that I don't think Johnny Dawkins or any coach in the country has dealt with on a regular basis, aside from some of those top coaches that just replace one, All-American high school player with another every year because they're just one and done, so like Calipari and stuff. But as far as the type of team that UCF is, I mean, there's just really the amount of turnover that we've had this year is just insane. So these guys are going to have to get ready quick and get that chemistry going quick. I will say a few of these guys, actually a lot of these guys we're going to see a lot more 3-point shooting this year. I'm going down the players that played yesterday, And I'm really going down this roster, and Dazon Ingram, Colin Smith, Cesar DeJesus, Frank Burtz, Matt Milan, Brandon Mahan, Darren Green, and that's good 8 players of the 11 that played, eight players of the 8 or 9 that played yesterday. I mean, there's so many of these players on the roster that can shoot the three. So I think we're going to see a lot more spread out offense this year, a lot more shooting the three. Last year we were like one of the last teams in the country in 3-pointers made. And I think this year you're going to see a lot more shooting, which could be frustrating at times if they're missing. But it could actually be really exciting to watch and electric at times when we're on. So I don't think there's going to be too many games that we're out of it this year with our ability to shoot the three. Dazon's able to shoot the three. I've already talked about him and his athleticism. Matt Milan is just a knockdown shooter. He unfortunately, I felt really terrible for him yesterday. His debut as a local kid from Oviedo, and his debut as a night he went 0 for 5, which is probably never happened in his recent basketball career, and didn't score a point. But he's going to be a really assassin from the outside for us. And I've already talked about Brandon Mahan, but Darren Green Jr. as a freshman, he's an excellent shooter as well. And so you're going to see a lot of 3-point shooting this year, and that's going to be exciting to watch. A lot of pick and pop, and you even saw some 5-out, no in yesterday on offense, and that was just strange to see from a UCF team, considering the large presence that was Taco last year.
You mentioned Matt Milan. Certainly for him, for fans, and for Coach Dawkins, a disappointing opening game performance. What else did you see that gives you cause for concern, at least in the early going, if not, for the rest of the season?
Well, I think one of the things I just touched on could be a cause of concern. One of the things that happened yesterday that some of the fans may have been disappointed in is, we didn't shoot a great percentage from the field. And I think as a whole, especially Matt Milan, we were just off a little bit on shooting. But what I was encouraged by is we were getting a lot of good shots, open shots. They just weren't really falling. And so that was a bit of a concern if we're going to, I don't want us to rely too much on the outside shot. Some of the concerns were the same as last year, where we gave up a decent amount of offensive rebounds to Prairie A&M. They're a very active team. They're a very aggressive team. They're crashing the boards on every play, and they were able to grab, I think it was 13 offensive rebounds, if I remember correctly, yesterday. And so that could be a concern moving forward, especially with some of the frustrations that we had last year on giving up a lot of offensive rebounds. I think there's going to be a lot of games like yesterday where we go up against some good teams, and at times we're going to struggle a little bit this season. But I think this team is rather resilient, and they're going to surprise us a lot in moments throughout this season. And so I think the reliance on the outside shot, at least from what I saw yesterday, could be a little bit of a cause of concern. And so hopefully we're making sure that we're getting in the paint and having some high percentage buckets throughout the game.
Coach Dawkins prides himself on team defense. What did you think about the defensive output that you saw in this game?
I was encouraged by it, Trace. I really like to see some implementation of about a 3/4 court press that they employed, especially in the first half. We're really putting a lot more pressure on the opposing offense, more so than we did last year, where we were just making sure that we were getting in that set half-court defense and really anchored by Taco in the middle. I think this year you're going to see a lot more free-flow, and with the athletes that we have, we're going to take more chances and make sure that we press up in that 3/4 court press. And then also there was a lot of trapping opportunities, especially in the first half, that I was encouraged to see. I think that they're going to I mean, with Coach Dawkins, the way he coaches the team, it's defense first. And I think these guys are going to be not only from an athleticism standpoint, but from an effort standpoint, I think they're going to do well on the defensive end. And I mean, when you lose some of, not only Taco, but you lose some of the defenders that we had last year, it's going to be difficult to try to match that. And I don't want to compare this team to last year's team too much, but by the same token, we do have a lot of athletes, a lot of players that can move their feet. And as I said in the beginning, I'm really encouraged by what I saw from Colin Smith. I think he will be a good anchor in the middle. He is stepping into his role with this team as not only a leader on offense, but he had made some great defensive plays yesterday, especially a charge that he took at the end of the first half. It's always great to see him step into the right position and a big man like that take the contact, take a charge. So I think we're going to be another great defensive team this year. Maybe we'll look differently than we did last year, of course, but certainly defense first when it comes to Coach Dawkins, and this team will be no different.
It's going to take a while to get used to the new players, but also that we won't be seeing Taco Fall, Aubrey Dawkins, B.J. Taylor, Chad Brown, and a name that may not get as much mention because those guys graduated, but Terrell Allen. So who do you think is the most difficult to replace? Is the easy answer Taco Fall because of the difference that he was not only on offense but defense? Is he the easy answer to who's the most difficult to replace?
I mean, in a word, yes. He's the easy answer.
Okay, who's two? Who's the second most difficult?
I mean, you can't lose a player like Taco, and I mean, he's just the most unique player ever. And I mean, in the country, so replacing him is the most difficult. But I would say the most difficult to replace in the sense that our team we're going to have to really find who this person is actually Aubrey Dawkins, because I think Brandon Mahan may have the best shot at being this guy, but having a wing player that was as athletic, as quick, and as good as shooting the three as Aubrey Dawkins is and was for us at UCF, I think he's a really difficult one. He's a really special player that is going to be hard for this team to replace. Because while we have better three-point shooters as a whole this year on our roster, and we're going to take more threes, or at least it appears that way, than we did last year, I mean, Aubrey was just a special scorer, is a special scorer. I mean, he's super athletic and all that. And I think he's going to be the most difficult to replace in the sense that it's not very clear right now who that versatile, kind of go-to wing player is on this roster.
So we've mentioned Colin Dazon. Who do you think might surprise us here over the next couple of weeks that we might be talking about that, maybe we're not spending a lot of time talking about after game one?
Yeah, well, you saw some flashes in yesterday's game, but I think the freshman Darren Green Jr. Has a chance to be really special coming off the bench, and he seems like that type of player that has a calm confidence about him that nothing really seems to faze him. And he stepped in some big moments, and he was actually in the lineup, I think, kind of down the stretch when the game really mattered yesterday, and hit some big-time threes when we're either down or tied, or the game was really close, and we needed him to knock it down, and he caught a zipper screen, straight up the middle, and he turned over his right shoulder and just nailed that three, I think, from the top of the key. That was a huge bucket when we needed it, and then he came right down off of I think it was the very next play on a fast break, and he caught this really great pass from Dre Fuller and spot up three in the corner, and he nailed that one too. And just him hitting those kind of back-to-back threes in a really crucial spot in the game showed me that, he has a lot of poise for a freshman, and he could be a really special scorer for us. I don't know if he's necessarily going to work his way into the starting lineup this year because we might have to have some good scoring and shooting off the bench, but I see him as a guy that certainly is going to be a very important role player for us that we're not really talking too much about right now.
So basketball season collides with football season. We get used to all of those prominent names in football. There are more than 300 schools that play basketball, and people want to say, Prairie View, what? Where? You know, they won the Southwestern Athletic Conference. They were an NCAA tournament team. So, you know, you can't sleep on them. But the competition level steps up with Miami. Miami is 1-1. They have lost to number 5 Louisville, and they just defeated Florida Atlantic. This is quite a step up in challenge. A 9 o'clock tip time Tuesday night for television purposes. Coach Dawkins was impressed by the student turnout. I got to say I was as well. They were raucous. It was a lively atmosphere at the arena for a Saturday 3 o'clock game. So hopefully,
that was encouraging.
Hopefully, the students will turn out and pack the joint, and it'll be a lively crowd. And you know this, we talk about it in football, but you know it from basketball. You really do feed off of the energy of the crowd when it's raucous in a tight arena.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is an in-state, game that Miami has been no slouch over the last number of years, and certainly when you have an opportunity to play a team like Miami at home, regardless of the tip time, I hope the students and the Knights fans show up and show out and are really loud for this team, because I think, as I've said before, this is the type of team that is going to be very easy to root for and be excited about throughout this season. We're going to have some ups and downs, but they seem to be a really gritty team that is going to be easy to root for. So I hope certainly that the fans show up, because I think this team can really show the fans a lot of effort, and they're going to take it to Miami. They're going to give them their best effort, and hopefully come out of there with a victory at home.
I'm trying
victory.
I'm trying to think of a word to approach this season with. I don't know that optimistic is it. I think patient is a word, but what about just be relaxed and enjoy watching these guys develop? These are the stars of tomorrow that are going to emerge. We're never going to forget Taco and BJ and all those guys we keep talking about, but this is the next era, the next generation of UCF men's basketball players, and I think we can just sit back and enjoy. We're not going to win and night in and night out. There are going to be struggles, but it could be a fun team to watch and grow and develop.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's going to be a few games here and there where there's not too many games on this schedule this year where you could just kind of chalk it up and say we're definitely going to win that one, right? Not right now, anyways. We'll see. I'm hoping that we'll be extremely encouraged after we go in. We're about 5 or 6 games in, and we're saying, all right, we really like what we've got here, and the kind of unknowns are taken out of it. But as of now, I mean, there's not really any games on our schedule that you can say that's a guaranteed win, and so there might be a few of those games this year where the casual fan especially, is going to be like, oh man, I can't believe we lost that one. But there's going to be a lot of games that even the most diehard fan this year, that there's going to be some surprising wins this year that a lot of even the most diehard fan didn't expect. I think this team has the ability to step up in big moments, and I think that chemistry is going to come. I think it's already building, and I'm excited about what this season could be. So I like the word relaxed. Let's see how it unfolds. But cheer on these guys. I think they're going to provide a lot of heart and hustle, and they're going to show you some really great skill as well. And this will be a real big challenge for Coach Dawkins to bring together all of these new faces and new names, and bring them together for a winning season. But we've seen Coach Dawkins do that before, and I got confidence that he's going to put him in the right position to do it again. I was actually, just a quick sidebar on the chemistry front, I was thinking a lot about this today and throughout the week, and I almost think it's kind of easier for a team that is all coming together for the very first time, for the most part, which is what this team is doing with all these transfers and these guys that haven't played on a on a court when it matters together. I think it's almost easier because of maybe the expectations, or they're just all going through it together. It's probably easier for that chemistry to come versus last year when we had such veterans on this team, and BJ and Taco, and they're trying to get used to playing with Terrell Allen and get used to playing with Aubrey Dawkins, and all the expectations that came with before the season last year, and doing that all while you're trying to gel together. I think it might be easier for these guys to kind of catch a stride earlier and quicker than last year's team. And so I'm excited to see if that's going to come to fruition, because it's going to be a really interesting team to watch.
Alrighty, Ben. Hey, man, thank you very much for coming on and talking to us tonight. We're looking forward to talking to you about basketball throughout the season, and we're happy to have you back again. You're also going to join me on Sunday morning, on the morning after this week, and talk a little bit of basketball on ESPN 580 with me as well.
Yeah, definitely, Andrew. I appreciate you, inviting me out to that next Sunday. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to talking to you guys, throughout this basketball season, and I'm excited for what's to come.
All righty, we will talk to you soon.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Charge on.
Glad to have Ben back. I like his new intro, too.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
I want an intro. Can I have an intro?
You've got an intro. It's the whole Knightline thing.
No, I want a little thing like that. I like that. That's cool.
Oh, boy.
Ben Stout.
It doesn't do that, but it could, I guess.
I like that.
That was my inner arena announcer voice. I've never used that voice before. That's a new one for me, by the way.
One of the standouts in Saturday's game was redshirt junior guard Cesar De Jesus, who had 11 points. I caught up with him at Media Day and talked to him about what he thinks we're going to see about the Knights this coming season.
If this offense is working like you all hope it will, what will it look like to everyone who's watching?
Really fast. The pace is a lot faster. We have a lot more shooters, and it's just going to be fast. It's going to be exciting to watch.
Any sacrifice on the defense?
Nah, we still got the same goal. Just every possession, take one possession at a time to get the stop.
Most preseason projections have you guys towards the bottom of the league, especially with all of the turnover.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you?
It doesn't mean nothing to me, although I do use it as motivation. We all use it as motivation, but, rankings are just rankings. We won't pay attention to that. We just go out there and just show our talents.
What can you guys do this year? Right? Projections have you not doing much, so the expectations for everyone else aren't there. What do you guys think you can do?
I think we can prove everybody wrong. Coach Dawkins has had a team where he's been projected really low and ended up playing in the postseason regardless, so it's not our first time we've been here before, so we just have to take it one game at a time and just prove people wrong.
What do you make of the American, game in and game out, home or away?
It's a tough conference, home or away, wherever you go. It's going to be a tough conference. There's some tough teams, a lot of teams to beat, especially with Memphis. They're looking pretty good, so it's a tough conference overall.
How do you see your game improving?
I see it improving a lot, especially in my decision-making. Coach Dawkins had put me in a position where I got to make a lot of decisions for my teammates and myself, so I see myself just making a lot of better decisions, shooting the ball better.
What do you have to do to keep getting better?
Just keep working every day. Keep listening to the coaches. They're giving us the answers to the test every day, so you just got to listen to them.
What kind of leader do you think you are?
I think I'm a good leader. I forgot what I was going to say. I lead by example, I make sure the younger players are doing what they have to do, and I just out there to just have my team win.
Next up for basketball, Miami at UCF Tuesday, November 12th. Coming up, first tip 9 p.m. UCF travels to Illinois State on the 17th. Going ahead to Knights in the pros this week, there wasn't a lot going on with our guys. A lot of guys off this week and not a lot going on. But Traquan Smith, Lord have mercy. The dude took one of the biggest hits that I've seen in a while. His helmet popped off. I almost said his head popped off, but his helmet popped off,
like it.
And he held on to the ball. And he was smiling on his way down to the turf, which I thought was awesome. So way to go for him. I don't think that the Saints came out very good on that game, though. I think they lost to Atlanta.
Yeah, how about that?
It was
Bring
crazy.
back Teddy Bridgewater. That Drew Brees is washed up.
Yeah, I guess so.
He comes back after injury, and they lose to Atlanta.
Yeah.
In New Orleans.
And then Latavius Murray did not have a good game either. So I think he got 5 carries for like 20 yards or something. So, all right, a little bit of news as well from the NBA G League. It was the debut for the Maine Red Claws of former UCF center Taco Fall. Finished with 13 points and 11 rebounds and added 3 blocks in 25 minutes coming off the bench.
Pretty good.
That's awesome.
Island H2O Live, a new wave of water park.
Experience the next generation of fun at Island H2O Live. You choose the music. You choose the lighting. And you choose where to share your memorable moments at Florida's newest and most immersive water park.
Island H2O Live.
Now open in Kissimmee, located off US 192 and State Road 429 on Inspiration Boulevard.
Island H2O Live.
All right, we got another winner who has left us a 5-star review randomly chosen. This is Nightto, Knighto 2000. That's the handle on the review. Didn't leave a Twitter handle or anything else, so you're going to need to contact us. How do they do that?
Just my email. Contact Andrew at KnightlineSports.com. Andrew at KnightlineSports.com.
And the review goes as follows. This is a must-listen for any fan of the UCF Knights. Trace and Andrew have great on-air chemistry and show passion and knowledge for all things
when
related
I don't interrupt you.
And show passion and knowledge for all things related to UCF. Give it a listen. You won't regret it. And if you made it to this point in the show, you really like us. I added that part. You're
probably regretting
Nightto 2000 did not say that. How about we do something a little bit different this week? What about if you retweet on
We'll
Twitter,
put the logo up there.
Yeah.
We'll put Knightline's logo. We'll put Island H2O's logo up there. And if you retweet that, we'll choose somebody who retweeted it.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah, that will work. We'll try something different this week.
Awesome.
Looking at the Knightline planner, men's soccer back home Wednesday, November 13th in the American Championship round. Temple at UCF. First kick 7 at the UCF Soccer and Track Complex. With a win, UCF will advance to the championship game. That'll be Saturday night at home. Also, Wednesday, women's hoops is at Florida Gulf Coast. Baseball's Black and Gold World Series begins the 14th at home with games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 6 o'clock. Volleyball will head to Temple. Fall ball wraps for softball at 6 on Friday the 15th at home against Florida Southwestern. And volleyball will finish out the regular season at UConn on the 16th. Women's basketball will be at Stephen F. Austin. And on the 17th, rowing is at the Rivanna Romp in Charlottesville, Virginia. Tim, that's what it's called. Tim on Facebook made me laugh. His response to our call for post-Tulsa Ask Knightline questions, he said, simply, what game? I thought that loss to Tulsa on Friday was just a nightmare. Yeah, he's not kidding.
Yeah, it was definitely a nightmare.
We check in on volleyball, men's and women's soccer. We answer your questions in Ask Knightline when Knightline number 210 returns.
Oviedo Brewing Company is the hottest microbrewery in Central Florida. Located 7 miles from UCF at the Oviedo Mall, this 8,800 square foot brewery just opened its doors 6 months ago and has already crafted 13 unique beer flavors and counting in their tap room. The tap room contains different styles of beverages, including ciders, wines, and craft sodas. Not only do they have amazing beers, they also have a full kitchen with gourmet pizzas, wings, and tacos. Oviedo Brewing has activities for each day of the week, such as Taco Tuesdays, Trivia Wednesdays, Pizza and Pint on Thursdays, plus live music on Friday and Saturday evening. But the best is Sunday brunch with unlimited beer mimosas. Need a spot for game day? Oviedo Brewing is just the place with their large TVs to catch all the live games. You also find Oviedo Brewing at UCF tailgating sampling beers. And OBC support for the Knights doesn't stop there. If you need a spot for UCF away games, come to Oviedo Brewing Company, where the Knightline Sports Crew will be broadcasting live after the game. You can get all the details on their Instagram or Facebook page. Follow them at Oviedo Brewing CO. Download the Untapped app, and you can find out what beers are on tap. The food menu is also available on their website, OviedoBrewingCO.com.
Hey Night Nation, it's Adam from the Sons of UCF. Be sure to check out our show every Wednesday only on the Knightline Sports Network. Now, back to 2 guys who probably won't be Cow of the Week nominees, Andrew and Trace.
Ask a Knightline is brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Bar Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Bar Law today.
Time again for Ask Knightline. We answer the questions you give us on Facebook or via Twitter at hashtag Ask Knightline. Manny Amoris, at Manny Amoris, our buddy Manny in Texas. Who
stirring the pot.
He's a bit of a pot stirrer. We've given him the exemption to ask multiple questions. He asked at the end of last week's segment, what gifts would you give the offense, the defense, if you could play Santa Claus?
We've been so nice to Manny, and Manny has turned on me.
He's heel turned on you.
Yeah, he must watch wrestling because he must watch wrestling because he's totally turned on me.
He goes, do you mind doing a flashback where AP dismissed yours, he's talking to me, and some of the fan base is concerned on penalties? Also, will AP double down and repeat, quote, he put it in quotes, I don't think there's anything wrong from last week's episode when asked about potential changes or improvements.
Specifically, I was talking when I said anything, I didn't think anything was wrong about the offense last week when we whooped Houston. That was what I was talking about. I was not talking about this week, last week. I was not talking about any of that.
I don't think he was talking about that game. I think he was talking about the season.
I was talking about that game specifically. So, I mean, if we want to, like, Manny.
So you've capitulated now. You find penalties to be a problem.
Absolutely.
And you're not doubling down, and you do see there are things that are wrong.
Yeah, I talked about this at the beginning of the show.
We've answered Manny's question.
Yes.
Manny won. And
no, it's not. Whatever.
At UCF Selena.
See, Selena's on my side, obviously.
Can we just real quick shout out a thank you to Selena and all of our service members as Veterans Day approaches.
Absolutely. I went to the Vietnam Memorial Wall
in Sanford
exhibition thing today. That was tough to go to that and see all.
Have you been to it in Washington?
I have not, but I know of it. I have not been to it. I'm hoping to get to Washington again this summer, and I will when I go there. I'm going to go to all those.
May I make a recommendation? Of course, see it during the day, but it is more unique if you see it at night.
Yeah.
Because of the lighting and the candles. It's very moving because every time I have been, a couple times I've been, there's always somebody scratching through the name.
Well, lots of people were doing that today at the traveling one. And literally, I didn't spend a lot of time there because I didn't want to get in the way. It's a kind of a small area, and it's a small replica wall. But there were a lot of people doing that, and I got emotional.
Yeah, it's very emotional. But at night...
I don't want to talk about it too much.
At night, it's different. During the day, the tourists tend to overtake it a bit with the photos and the selfies and the chatter. At night, it's more respectful, I found, going
those
to it
things
at night.
are a little weird because I didn't personally, none of my family members died in that, and so I felt kind of weird even going to this one up here just because I didn't want to get in the way. So, and that's kind of the reason I've never been to that one, because I know that people do that, and I will because I want to see it. I think every American should see it, but I haven't. But anyway, that's
thank you,
another story,
Selena, and all of our service members for your sacrifice and your service at UCF Selena. She's hoping that you could explain what a bye week looks like. Do they take a few days off, work on the next team, treat it like a camp general practice? Do they slow practice down, still go full speed? How much healing, physical and mental, is possible during a bye?
Well, when I played, we used it as just a normal extra week of practice. We worked on things that we needed to work on, which there was quite a few things that we needed to work on. We did get like 1 or 2 days off, I think, extra, but it was really just another week of practice without a game, personally.
I think a little bit of rest, though, is
we got a couple days off. Yeah,
which is much needed.
Oh, absolutely, especially when they come late in the season, you know.
Andrew on Facebook, do you think our coaches need to instill a stronger sense of discipline and focus with this team? We need our coaches to take control of the lack of discipline and cavalier attitude that seems to be going on. Even when Frost was here, he and his coaches had fun with the players, but when it came time to work and get ready for a game, it was all business no matter what team we played.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see what's going on with that. But as Kyle said, maybe that's the issue. It very well could be the issue as far as the way they prepare and the things that they do before the game. And maybe they're too loose. Maybe they need to tighten it up a little bit.
I thought also back to a question that Gabe Davis answered following, a third quarter that was not particularly good. And he said that they got complacent. So you've seen that maybe at different pockets here. So I think that, yes, when we're talking about what we hope Coach Heupel and the coaches pivot and change and evolve, I think a little bit stronger focus. I don't know that we can speak specifically to discipline, but a greater focus they need to instill in the players, and the players have to take that personal responsibility as well, right? Yeah. Jeff on Facebook, who are the locker room leaders on this team? We used to get those great pregame videos from Shaquem and Titus Davis, but nothing this season. And I think it's been a reoccurring theme is leadership comes in different ways.
Yeah.
It's not that Dylan Gabriel's not a leader, but as a true freshman, he's developing his style of leadership.
Yeah, and we see a little bit of those things.
Nate Evans.
Yeah, you see Nate Evans and Neville Clark for sure. I think Richie Grant, I've seen him. You'll see him in the Netflix things a lot. The hype up things before the game. Just look to see who's doing that. I know that Richie Grant's done them a few times.
Our friend Libby at Libs407. By the way, she's making a big week-long journey to Central Florida from Georgia.
She may be right here in the 1148 studios if she takes me up on the offer.
I don't think this room's big enough for her ego. I mean, I don't think... Goodness sakes, I don't know.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Kevlar. I might have to invest in some sort of helmet or something like that. She's asking the point we've been talking about. What in the world's going on? Penalties galore. O-line letting our QB and backs get nailed. Dylan's going to end up seriously hurt. I don't think we should be perfect or win everything, but this is just sloppy, especially this far in the season. I mean, you can't disagree after the performance on Friday, and you hope that it is a wake-up call. Can a team with a couple of games left be dramatically different? We've talked about that the talent is there.
Yeah.
Can they do the discipline, and can they get better at these things?
We've talked about 99% of this stuff.
True.
To all ends.
Well, Laura, L-Bar87, why do we look like a completely different team on the road? Boy, if we can have that one figured out, Laura.
Yeah. That is the magic question right now. That is the one. If we had the answer
usually
to that.
on coaching?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it is.
Heupel said in the post game, it's a loss. We all share in the responsibility of that loss. And so, multiple things can be correct. I think it is on coaching, but it is on players. I think, earlier Kyle was saying penalties are something players have to correct, and maybe he's come to a bit of a different point. Everybody's got to do that. You got to have a stronger coaching influence on that, but the players got to step up.
Absolutely.
I mean, and some of the penalties, are just so dumb.
Yeah.
13
men on the field.
Well, not even that, but some of the personal foul. You don't need to do those sorts of things. So, at Golden Knight _2, do you think the reason for these losses is because of lack of answering to adversity? Does this team not know how to win close games? What's interesting about it is the wins are usually blowout wins.
Yeah.
And when there have been losses in the Heupel era, they've been close losses.
Right.
But there haven't been a lot of close wins. I think it is an interesting point. That's why I said last week, I just really want to see him pull out a close game. One of my concerns this season was that
I would rather they didn't have to pull out a close.
I gotcha. But we didn't see Matt Wright, kicker, have to be in a high pressure situation like you see week in and week out in college football.
They haven't been there,
and they haven't still. Where we've needed to rely upon Dylan Barnes for that game-winning field goal, meaning we haven't faced that situation where our actions, the team's actions, can win in a close game. So I think it is an interesting point.
Consequence of winning a lot.
Well, we've talked a little bit about that. Fear the Pegasus. Am I the only one that has noticed the lack of fire since the loss to Pittsburgh? They've looked sloppy, undisciplined, unmotivated far too often this season. Will this hurt recruiting? Will the program take a step back? It is if you listen to Mike Bianchi at a crossroads. I think the foundation is laid there. And, UCF has still really turned the corner on brand name. But you, Fear the Pegasus, and others, just remember when you're grumbling just take it down a notch and let's not fire at one another here.
Well, and I
Recruits see
remember
this.
after the 0-15 season, we were really worried about what recruiting was going to be like, but players wanted to come here and play because they wanted to be responsible to turn it around.
Yeah.
So I think that there's going to be some of those players that come in on this class and think that they can do something to help.
And it may not have been the best Sunday in the NFL, but remember, recruits see the guys that UCF are putting into the pros as well.
Quite a few of them.
And that's attractive for them in a high-flying offense, especially. And our buddy Jim Hadaway at J.A. Hadaway, in reaction to this year's football season, should I eat too much or drink too much?
Well, drinking can be kind of bad for your health, although eating too much can too. So
Or both.
Or both.
You could choose both.
You could do
or
both.
All things in moderation.
Yeah, well, yeah. I say drink too much. Screw it. Have fun.
Thank you, everybody, for your questions. Hashtag Ask Knightline. Answering them again on Knightline number 211, just 1 week from now.
Thank you. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports.
We start with volleyball. Was out at the venue on Sunday afternoon. Competitive match. UCF loses 3-1 to Cincinnati. It was first set to Cincinnati, second set to UCF. UCF checked out in the third set and wasn't looking good in the fourth, rallied, but it wasn't enough.
Those dang Bearcats.
Yeah, that was UCF's second loss to Cincy this year. Bearcats will win the East with a 13-1 record. Of course, the tiebreakers over UCF. UCF 12-2 in the American, 19-7 overall. In the RPI, 28th. 2 road games and the regular season, as we mentioned in the planner. And then UCF will host the new conference tournament that begins November 22nd. So could get another look at Cincinnati. Then they're going to need to play better to beat Cincinnati, or they're not going to win the tournament at home. I mean, they're going to face them again probably.
Good.
Senior night on Sunday afternoon. Big thanks to our outgoing seniors, Christina Fisher, Lachey Harper, Mackenzie Kuckmener, Allie Sable, and Aaron Olson.
All right. Women's soccer loses 2-1 to the Cows in the American semifinal round. That's not good.
By the way, the Cows beat Memphis Sunday, and the women are the champions.
Not good. Yeah. All right. UCF likely ends its season at 5-2-2 in the American, 11-4-4 overall. Congrats to Konya Plummer, the AAC Defensive Player of the Year. Konya is also a first-team selection with Christian Scott, Zandy Zori earning spots on the second team, 3 players on the all-rookie team, Ellie Moreno, Ali Gudorf, and Caroline Delisle.
6th-ranked men's soccer beat Cincinnati 3-2 in overtime in the regular season. They play a lot of overtime games, so they are battle-tested. Here as the American Conference Tournament gets underway. That extended their unbeaten streak to 15 matches. UCF 6-0-1 in the American, 13-1-2 overall. In the RPI, 3rd.
Wow.
3rd nationally.
That's awesome.
Yes. And again, this is a team, if they can play a little bit tighter defense, capable of going on to North Carolina in the College Cup for soccer. Just saying. Of all the sports, this one here right now has a chance of winning a national title.
Wow.
And then you could see it in the next month.
That's awesome.
Just saying. I mean, they could not,
another national championship for UCF.
Yes. Rookie of the week in the league, who other than UCF's Gianluca Arcangeli?
Easy to say for you. Women's basketball loses at Belmont 72-37 on Saturday night. Earlier in the week, in front of a record 6,970 fans, UCF beat Pittsburgh 74-58. The Knights are 1-1.
Softball loses to Florida State 13-5 in fall ball and to Florida 12-4. Can I just say this, that when you look over this, the loss for Football Friday at Tulsa, women's soccer lost in the postseason. Volleyball Sunday, women's basketball Saturday night, fall ball. Not a good couple of days collectively for the UCF athletic team. So let us hope that we have a much better week ahead.
Absolutely. And finally, this is a good thing. Baseball wins its fall ball game at Stetson 13-4. Stetson's usually a really good baseball team, right?
Yeah, better at baseball than basketball.
At this point in the show, I'm usually like exhausted. So, all right. Well, it's been a good one. This has been Knightline 210. I'm Andrew Phegley.
I'm Trace Trylko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
Charge on to the field. With our spirits we'll never yield. Black and gold charge right through the line. Victory is our cry. BSCTO or life tonight.